In a small town surrounded by a dense forest, there were always dark rumors of a creature known as the Grim Echo. It was said that this creature only appeared when it was summoned or when someone accidentally disturbed its peace. All who had ever seen it described the Grim Echo as a ghostly figure shrouded in shadow, whose face was impossible to see. It was as if the darkness itself was consuming his appearance. Andrea, a college student, came to this town every summer to visit her grandmother. Usually the town seemed quiet and peaceful to her, the perfect place to take a break from the noise of the big city. But this summer, she felt a strange restlessness. Friends and locals had told her stories about the Grim Echo, and children had scared each other with tales of a ghost lurking in the woods. Andrea didn't pay much attention to it at first. She was skeptical and figured people just liked mysticism and legends. But one day, as Andrea sat in the backyard of her grandmother's house enjoying the cool evening, an old house at the edge of the woods caught her attention. It was said that this house had been empty for decades, and no one dared to go inside. But Andrea felt an overwhelming urge to explore it. Evening came, and when the sun was almost completely hidden behind the horizon, Andrea decided to head towards this house. She walked through the dark forest that surrounded the hill on which the abandoned mansion stood. With each step, the feeling of unease grew stronger, but curiosity took over. Once at the threshold of the house, she felt a strange chill run through her body. It was as if someone was watching her. The house greeted her with empty windows, resembling lifeless eyes. She cautiously approached a massive wooden door, shabby and cracked from time. When Andrea put her hand on the door, it opened slowly and with a resounding creak. It was dark and damp inside, and the air was saturated with a musty and rotten smell that made her dizzy. She entered the house and, with the aid of a flashlight, began to look around. There were signs of time everywhere: dusty, cobweb-covered paintings, broken furniture, and dust-covered mirrors. But what caught her attention the most were the strange signs scratched into the walls. The signs were indistinct, but it was as if something was trying to leave a message. As she moved down the hallway, Andrea suddenly heard a low whisper coming from far away, as if someone was calling her name. She stopped, her heart hammering harder. Maybe it's just the wind, she thought, but the sounds repeated. They grew louder and louder, as if someone was getting closer. In one of the rooms, Andrea noticed an old mirror covered in a thick layer of dust. She walked over to it and gently ran her hand over the surface, wiping away the layer of dirt. She thought she saw her reflection, but for a moment something else flashed in the mirror. It was a pale, lifeless silhouette with empty eyes full of gloom. He was standing right behind her. Andrea recoiled and shrieked, but she couldn't take her eyes off the mirror. The creature she saw was Grim Echo. It was as if he was looking right at her through the mirror. His presence was so ominous that she felt a chill in her chest. At that moment, Andrea felt something invisible touch her shoulder. A strong sense of panic gripped her, and Andrea rushed toward the exit. But just as she turned around, the door of the room slammed shut in front of her. She tried to open it, but the door wouldn't budge, as if someone was holding it from the other side. Suddenly, the flashlight's light began to fade, plunging the room into almost total darkness. Footsteps, heavy and slow, they approached her from the shadows of the hallway. Grim echo followed her, and each step seemed to echo in her head with an echo of terror. Her breathing became frequent and ragged, and her heart was ready to burst out of her chest. Gathering all her strength, she kicked the door, and it finally opened. When Andrea ran out of the house and turned around, she saw Grim Echo standing in the window on the second floor, watching her. There was coldness and indifference in his empty eyes, as if he was just waiting for his next victim. The next day, waking up in a cold sweat, she thought it might have all just been a scary dream. But when she looked in the mirror in her room, she saw the imprint left on the glass "You're next." Since then, Andrea has never gone back to that house, but sometimes, when she is alone in the dark, she thinks she hears that ominous whisper again, coming from somewhere far away, ...